My son trashed our Bahamas vacation, destroyed $35,000 worth of items, and got me arrested, so I left him behind and filed for divorce. Ethan, 28, lives at home, doesn't drive, and doesn't cook and receives $2,000 monthly. My wife defeated all my restrictions, creating this monster. At 15, he bullied poor pupils. He was grounded. Wife ungrounds him. He wanted designer stuff, I refused. Wife concurred. I refused to increase his weekly pay from $1,200 to $2,000 at 22. The wife gave it to him. Family vacationed in Bahamas for my birthday. Ethan immediately complained that his fine jackets were too hot and had to dress like brokies. His wife rushed to get him tropical luxury gear. He moaned, had tantrums at restaurants, slept until 3 p.m., was unhappy we did activities without him, and was nasty to hotel staff for 3 days. He declined to dine with us on my birthday after calling a seafood restaurant horrible. We paid room service. Ethan had mushrooms and alcohol when the hotel phoned mid-dinner. We were banned our belongings at the front desk. Never taking drugs, he became crazy. He hit every bed in our suite, destroyed mirrors, punched holes in walls, and ran through the lobby in his underwear, cursing at visitors, before vomiting and fainting out. Medical help was requested. The hotel said we were lucky no charges were filed. Packed and checked into a cheap motel. Ethan pretended nothing happened the next morning. Got a little carried away, said. The only complaints were losing a fake nail and poor accommodations. He asked when we'd return to a motel, and I broke down. Called him unappreciative and disappointed. I snapped at my wife for shielding him. She was told her manchild couldn't live realistically. I pulled his suitcase from under the bed and fled. Ethan asked about my activity. Hotel by the lake. He shouted as I approached since he understood my goal. The luggage was thrown far. MacBooks, beautiful clothes, makeup, skincare, everything he valued gone. After a tantrum, Ethan jumped in but couldn't swim and left. Obviously my wife backed him. I flew home alone and left them. I was stopped by TSA during airport security. My unpackaged carry-on had narcotics. Ethan ate the same mushrooms. Chilled blood. Plants in my bag. When I explained, security held me. But who believes, those aren't mine? They let me call once. I panicked and contacted my wife. 1 minute silence. Ethan didn't get such drugs in Bahamas. Originally from home. From home office? What? I don't have your back pain pills. Oxycodone. Ethan stole and smashed them for months. He took it in the motel. Your luggage has that. You knew he stole my meds. I thought he was testing. He concealed drugs in my airport bag. He planted nothing. I put. Cold words hit. You drugged me and threw his $1,000 belongings in a lake. Did you anticipate no consequences? I put some in your bag this morning. Just enough to delay. Instruct you. I may be imprisoned. Will release. First offense, minor. Credit cards ruined what we're replacing. I checked my phone. 17. Purchases verified. Charges surpass $35,000. This is absurd. I'm calling our lawyer. Using what cash? This morning I depleted our joint funds. Transferred everything to my account. Theft. It's married property. Protecting them from unstable people. Losing luggage in lakes. Getting arrested for drugs. Phone buzzed. Any judge would back me. Legal correspondence from her divorce attorney. Papers filed. You divorced me for Ethan. The home is mine, remember? My inheritance bought it. She was right. Her family's money bought everything. She possessed it all after I worked my whole life for her. Check work email. Transferred HR email. Arrest for drug use, fired. Zero tolerance policy existed. 18 years at company, gone. They did how? I phoned. A frightened wife reported her husband's drug usage. I shook my phone in detention. You wrecked my life for Ethan. Not about Ethan, sweetheart. Never before had her voice been so cold. Check our bedroom cam. The phone app. Last Tuesday. 2 a.m. I shakily opened the app. I sleepwalked into our room. I did it harmlessly for years. The video shows me trying something unusual. Speaking plainly. They should have been sacked. Accident should have worked. No survivors next time. Blood froze. What accident? This is? Ethan and I left the road 6 years ago. Though the brakes failed, you worked on the car that morning? I was in airport custody while the TSA agent waited outside. I kept my phone to my ear when Nicole hung up. Bright fluorescent lighting and industrial beige government building walls made everything seem strange. Her words kept skipping in my memory as I tried to recall them. My baggage contained drugs. She divorced me, squandered our cash, fired me, and said I tried to murder them 6 years ago. After clearing his throat, the agent gestured to the passageway. I followed him through a maze of halls past guests being questioned and security monitors showing individuals removing shoes and devices. He left me in a smaller room with a metal table and 2 seats without saying anything. For what felt like hours, I checked my phone every few minutes. Purchase notifications persisted. Elegant eyewear, skincare, and Ethan's new MacBook Pro. Each notice drew hundreds or thousands from inaccessible accounts. Third-hour call to Jason. We were college roommates and stayed close when he moved 2 states for work. He responded on the second ring, and I tried to explain but was confused and panicked. He stated he'd call and determine bail without questioning. At hour 4, another agent brought me paper cup cold coffee. I had 15% phone battery at hour 5. The bail bondsman posted $15,000 when Jason returned at hour 6. Paperwork took 40 additional minutes. Jason was waiting in the pickup zone in his old car with warning lights when they released me. I sat in the passenger seat and looked out at the airport building through the windshield. Jason drove into traffic and I broken up the misery by chatting. Birthday. Ethan's hotel trashing. Throwing the bag in the lake. Planted drugs. Tomorrow's call. Divorce papers. Job termination. Bank accounts. Sleepwalking video. Without interrupting, he maintained his hands on the wheel and nodded when I ran out of words, suggesting I could stay with him forever. The drive takes 3 hours. I fell asleep around mile 40 and woke up in his apartment complex. His home was excellent. Both third-floor bedrooms overlook the parking lot. The additional bedroom has a sofa, bookshelf, and half-open window. Jason left after giving me a pillow and blanket. Bedridden, I accessed my banking app. Personal checking showed $1,125.45. The end. Everything else was gone. I had no job, no house, and probable airport drugs possession charges in 24 hours after my wife ruined me. Reread the divorce paperwork. Nicole now called me unstable and dangerous, citing the baggage incident as assault. She demanded full ownership of all marital assets, which she already possessed from her inheritance. I spent my whole paycheck on repairs, upkeep, and property taxes for 18 years, yet her name was on the deeds and titles. She owns a house, cars, and investments. I reread my employment email dismissal notification, effective immediately due to drug arrest. Zero tolerance policy, 18 years of service, outstanding performance reviews. Nothing stopped airport drug arrests. HR disabled my email and business systems. I need my work laptop back in 5 business days. I lay on the futon and stared at the ceiling, trying to remember the morning I supposedly smashed the car 6 years before. Nicole and Ethan prepared for their weekend mountain getaway. I always examined the car in the driveway before long trips. Oil, tire pressure, and windshield washer fluid were checked. I never touched the brake lines or caused them to fail. The accident happened 6 hours into their journey on a steep mountain slope. Nicole, frightened, called me from the hospital to say the brakes had failed and they'd gone off the road. Car flipped twice. Wounded Ethan has a broken collarbone. Concussion and rib injuries plagued Nicole. Lucky to survive. Mechanical failure, age-related brake line damage, and road salt exposure were revealed in the insurance inquiry. I accepted that explanation because it made logical. The car was 8 years old. Our winter roads were salted. Brake lines corroded. Nicole said I interfered with them, tried to kill them, and confessed while sleepwalking last Tuesday. Go to 2 a.m. on the security camera app, last Tuesday. After the video loaded, I approached our bedroom in my pajamas, eyes half closed and blank as when I sleepwalked. Since my doctor thought my sleep issue was safe, I did it since my 20s. I would chat around the home and forget everything the next morning. Nicole had been used to it for years and would guide me back to bed if I wandered. So I didn't just walk for this video. Standing by our bed, I gazed down at Nicole sleeping and spoke in a flat, repetitive voice. Security camera microphones captured clear words. They should have been sacked. Accident should have worked. No survivors next time. The video ended as I left the room asleep. My hands shook more after seeing that 3 times. That was my voice and body. I had no memory of it, therefore the statements made no sense. Why murder them? Nicole gave Ethan entitlement and spoiledness. I didn't intend or attempt murder. That was never me. Jason rang the door at 8 a.m. I slept about midnight, served me coffee and suggested a criminal defense attorney. I showered in his bathroom, wore yesterday's clothes because I had none, and tried to show respect. Jason led me to the downtown attorney's office, a little third-floor practice in an older building. Benjamin Clark, mid-40s, greeted us in the entryway with gray hair and a firm handshake. His little office included case files on the desk and legal books on the walls. He instructed me to sit and restart. I explained all. Ethan's drug-fueled hotel trashing, luggage in lake, airport arrest, Bahamas trip. Nicole's phone confession about drug planting, divorce, job loss, bank account emptying, and credit card charges. Benjamin made notes on a legal pad, his face deepening as I recounted the orderly events. He sat back and tapped his pen on the pad when I finished. He said the phone confession would have been useful if I'd recorded it, but without it, it was my word against hers. Physical evidence existed. Airport security found drugs in my bag. My prescription gave me access. A prosecution might argue I brought them for personal use or dissemination. Nicole may deny placing them, but physical evidence would prevail. Benjamin relaxed and watched me. He asked whether I recalled adjusting the brakes 6 years ago that morning. Question gut-punched me. He questioned whether I tried to kill my wife and children. I sat there confused. No, absolutely not. Not sure I changed those brake lines. We have problems. But I adore my family. Nicole enabled Ethan's privilege, but I never wanted them dead. That thought made me queasy. Benjamin nodded and drew on his legal pad. If this went to court, prosecutors would raise the same question. His explanation eased my anxiety. The criminal court won't accept sleepwalking confessions since they don't represent conscious thought or reliable memory. Everyone talks a lot when sleeping. Random thoughts, worries, TV. None of it matters. He then delivered the terrible news. This video may help Nicole recount her divorce. Even if legal, make me look unstable and dangerous. Being 28 and not a minor didn't affect custody. Benjamin preferred the drug charge because it may place me in prison. Everything else was tranquil and debatable. He sought permission to call my pharmacy for drug details. He phoned from work after I gave him the facts. The pharmacist found that I'd used 60 oxycodone tablets each month for 3 years for work-related back pain. Benjamin put the phone on speaker and said I refilled on time every month, never early, with no system faults. I followed my medication like a regular patient. Benjamin proposed an idea I did not consider. Nicole says Ethan steals pills often, so my supply should have run out. I should have obtained refills early or alerted my doctor about running out. That means Ethan stole fewer than Nicole indicated or I didn't take my complete amount. Telling the truth heated my cheeks. I missed days or took half doses when the pain was manageable. I avoided painkillers to avoid addiction. Some months I took 20 of 60 pills. Ethan may have stolen 30 to 40 pills each month for 8 months without my seeing the bottles deplete faster. Benjamin wrote that it helped my case. It proved I wasn't abusing my prescription. Drug abusers finish their tablets and need refills early. But it also revealed Ethan had long-term access to plenty. Benjamin recommended tracking Ethan's medicine consumption and tying it to my luggage's pills. He proposed hiring drug acquisition and use private investigator Maxwell Roberts. Maxwell knew traffickers and users, interviewed Ethan's pals, and mapped his drug use. Benjamin estimated that would cost $3,000 to $5,000, depending on inquiry time. I wanted to puke thinking about my $1,200 bank account. Benjamin saw my surprise, and said Jason promised to pay investigation fees before I came and insisted on helping. I wanted to reward Jason's efforts. I grabbed my phone out of my pocket when it buzzed. Nicole missed 17 calls. Ethan missed 12 calls. Unknown numbers phoned 3 times. Benjamin said not to react or contact Nicole or Ethan. After hiring a divorce lawyer, everything went through attorneys fast. He gave me Megan Hayes' number and said she was the best divorce attorney for my finances. Benjamin forbade me from hearing voicemails. Nicole wanted me to say something bad to record and use against me. Ethan may be trying to convince me to drop charges or forgive him. Anonymous numbers may be reporters or attorney investigators if Nicole disclosed the news. Benjamin suggested erasing without listening. While seeing notifications dissipate, I did that. Jason drove me from Benjamin's office to another bank across town. Nicole had no history at the institution where we opened an account. Transferring my last $1,125.45 took 10 minutes and felt pathetic. This was all I had after 18 years of marriage and a solid job. Jason drove me to 3 credit card companies to block joint accounts and report Nicole's illegal spending. Both original representatives agreed. Nicole informed them that morning that the cards were joint marital accounts with equal charging authority. Marital property laws allowed Ethan's $35,000 pricey item purchases since we were married and on the accounts. The third business said I could object, but it would certainly be denied for the same reasons. After inquiring about locking the cards to prevent additional charges, they said Nicole had done that, giving her control. Benjamin's call at the third credit card office was answered on speaker. He said credit card firms were right after checking marital property rules. The money was gone unless I could establish Nicole claimed to hurt me rather than for legal marriage fees, which was improbable. His recommendation was to record everything since it may show her divorce retribution. That night, I looked at Jason's spare bedroom ceiling, attempting to recall that morning 6 years before. I remembered workbench tire pressure gauges. We considered opening the hood and topping off the slightly low oil level. Touched brake lines? I pictured my hands approaching the brakes, trying to remember tools or intentional harm. Nothing arrived. Only periodic maintenance came to mind. Once every 2 weeks. But the footage shows me saying I caused the crash. I had full voicemail. In the garage with Nicole's silver car, I envisioned myself. They should have been sacked. Accident should have worked. No survivors next time. My exact words in that flat, sleepwalking voice. How could I write so vividly without truth? Maybe I thought about it while awake and my brain repeated it while sleeping. No, I never contemplated murdering them, no matter how mad I am with Nicole or Ethan. Turning over, I checked my phone. 2:30 a.m. Benjamin wanted to meet first thing to discuss future measures, so I set my alarm at 7. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but my thoughts wouldn't shut off. Benjamin called at 7:15 as I was resting in Jason's spare bed gazing at ceiling water streaks. My previous employer gave the prosecution their entire cooperation package, every element of my 18-year career, like crime scene evidence. They bolded its zero-tolerance drug policy in 3 documents, claimed to be victims of an employee who betrayed their trust, and shamed the organization. Benjamin claimed they were justifying my firing, converting me from a committed employee into a burden they should fire. The prosecutors were thrilled because corporations collaborating this quickly normally had valid worries about employee conduct, not were protecting their own backs by implicating someone. Benjamin argued that this made my case worse as we now had to confront both the criminal claims and the idea that I was an unstable addict who'd been fooling everyone for years. He indicated he was contacting Maxwell Roberts, a drug pattern tracker, to verify Ethan was the underlying problem. After thanking him and hanging up, I looked at that ceiling for another hour before Jason knocked and said, "Breakfast was ready." 3 days later, Maxwell called with his early observations. He located 2 of Ethan's mates on social media and in casual discussions at their hangouts, a coffee shop near our house, and an expensive clothing store. Both guys agreed. Ethan was medicated for 8 months, perhaps longer. He stated his dad prescribed the medicines. Maxwell captured the discussions with their approval and forwarded me the audio. Hearing these youngsters describe my son a generous dealer made me uneasy. One stated Ethan would bring baggies of crushed pills to parties and brag about his unlimited allowance and home supply. One child said Ethan acted as a rich friend who provided money and drugs, and everyone liked having him around because he made them feel luxurious. Maxwell had 3 more witnesses to interrogate, but these 2 were reliable and could establish Ethan had a long history of stealing and swiping my medication. Ethan brought the drugs to the Bahamas, not me, according to the timetable. Benjamin phoned Nicole that afternoon to say we had enough evidence to show reasonable doubt about the airport possession charge, but Nicole was moving rapidly on the divorce. He gave me Megan Hayes' number, stating she was the best divorce attorney who would take my case despite my finances. My office appointment was in the morning. Megan's office was in an older downtown building, so I felt comfortable paying her. Perhaps 50, she had piercing eyes and a powerful grasp. I sat across from her desk and watched her flip through Nicole's divorce papers, her face deepening. After 18 years of marriage and maintenance, she looked up and said the property was acquired with Nicole's inheritance money, thus I had no legal title to it. Despite California's community property law, inherited assets were separate until they were mixed with marital funds, therefore Nicole maintained everything in her name. My chest clenched because that house represented 20 years of my life. I painted rooms, repaired the deck, and changed the water heater every weekend. No legal value. Megan handled credit card fees. Ethan's missing things were replaced for $35,000. Nicole may claim she was replacing marital property I destroyed in a frenzy since they were manufactured before the divorce paperwork was submitted to me, making them impossible to obtain. Timing too perfect. Everything was arranged for that tight legal deadline. The joint account problem was more difficult, she said, because Nicole had access marital funds and emptying it into her personal account may hide assets. I didn't have time or money to prove it in court, and Nicole's attorney would argue she was protecting funds from a drug court inmate who was unstable. Meg leaned back and delivered it to me straight. Nicole had substantial divorce advantages owing to family and income. The prestigious firm's lawyer shielded her wealthy clients' assets. People with $800 hourly rates and speed dial judges. Jason helped me pay legal fees with what I had in my very empty bank account. She offered to represent me, but I realized we were up against someone with unlimited money and a legal advantage. I walked back to Jason's car in the parking garage after leaving her office feeling like I'd been kicked in the stomach and sat there for 20 minutes trying to fathom how outmatched I was in every way. Jason brought his specialty spaghetti that night, and we ate quietly until he demanded $10,000 for legal fees. I objected, but he cut me off. Refused repayment terms or negotiations. 3 years ago, when his divorce was affecting him financially and emotionally, I let him stay in my guest room for 2 months, and loaned him money I never asked for. He said he was repaying the favor when I needed it most and would be ashamed if I declined. I nodded and thanked him, trying not to cry. Benjamin booked my consultation with sleep issue specialist Nora Savage, who'd testified in numerous criminal cases, for the following day. Her office was connected to an Eastside medical facility with qualifications, so I thought she might help. Nora had me fill out a detailed medical history form and then spent an hour asking about my sleep habits, when the sleepwalking began, how often, and what I did while asleep. I stated sleepwalking since my late 20s, primarily about the house, chatting occasionally but never coherently, always harmless. She asked for the security camera tape, so I shakily opened it up on my phone, and saw her face as she watched me sleepwalk into the bedroom and mumble horrible things about accidents and survival. After the video ended, she added, "Sleepwalkers may speak anything, including fears, anxieties, and TV shows without memories or purposes. The sleeping brain creates stories from all kinds of sources unrelated to what the person thinks or does awake." She testified in 3 trials when sleeping people confessed to crimes they didn't do, and brain activity testing demonstrated that sleep talking was a different neurological mechanism from waking speaking. When she watched the video again, she moved closer to my phone screen and said something that made my pulse accelerate. My sleepwalking was structured, utilizing words that should have worked but didn't suit sleep speaking patterns. Sleepwalking was unorganized and pointless, she remarked. My phrases were complete and logical. She believed I replied to unrecorded audio. Someone playing thoughts or questions prompted my drowsy voice. Since most security cameras record both video and sound, she was surprised that this one just captured video. Her words brought back a 2-month-old memory. For security, Nicole desired a better bedroom camera. She set it up and checked angles throughout the afternoon. She became upset when I asked why we needed an expensive camera when the old one worked well. She wanted her money, jewels, and personal items safer. The new camera has audio. It was configured to record video when she left the box on the dresser, but I saw the specs. I thought she didn't want our conversation recorded while we slept. Time felt too perfect. I only see footage from last Tuesday after she upgraded the camera 2 months ago. A quiet tape to establish what was happening in that room while I spoke and sleepwalked. I mentioned this, and Nora's professional interest becomes sharper. My phone was requested, the camera app launched, and audio recording was banned despite hardware. She added most security camera clients want audio to chronicle occurrences, not recording causes issues when that option is disabled. Benjamin phoned me that afternoon as I absorbed Nora's comments in Jason's living room. He found forensic video analyst Angie Carlson, who checked security footage for manipulation. Benjamin thought she could help determine if the sleepwalking tape was altered or distorted since she has worked on other high-profile video instances. Benjamin scheduled a meeting in Angie's downtown office for the following morning. I accepted fast, hoping Nicole had falsified this proof against me. She needs access to evaluate the camera system and 3 months of footage. Benjamin warned me that Nicole controlled the home and its systems, which may be problematic. Nicole altered the password, so my phone's camera app was locked when I entered. Benjamin said we'd need to file a motion to force access, which may take weeks if Nicole's counsel objects. Megan and Benjamin discussed tactics with me. Her emergency petition asked me to retrieve personal property and security camera footage for drug prosecution and divorce. The motion would argue that I needed my clothes, paperwork, and other necessities, and that security footage may exonerate me for drug charges. Benjamin felt this was the best plan, and Megan promised to submit the documents by bedtime. Nicole replied 2 days later by attorney. They opposed the move, claiming my sleepwalking admissions and violent destruction to Ethan's belongings threatened the family. Her attorney said that admitting me into the house would allow me to destroy evidence, disrupt the camera system, or imperil Nicole and Ethan. They told me to have Nicole pack and transport personal items to a neutral location, and that I couldn't examine Nicole's surveillance footage. A judge who seemed exhausted and upset by a complex marital dispute presided over the case 3 days later. Megan said I had a right to my marital house property and that the surveillance tape was criminal evidence, not Nicole's. She highlighted the odd timing, calculated attacks on my employment and income, and a video clip without audio despite the camera's capabilities. Nicole's attorney described me as unstable, having been incarcerated for drugs, fired for cause, and violently trashing his son's belongings worth thousands of dollars. The judge saw Ethan's lakeside bag photos. More photographs exacerbated the agony. The court decided after hearing all sides and interrogating drug and sleepwalking footage, I can gather crucial personal items and download security camera video with a court-appointed monitor to prove nothing was damaged. I had a 4-hour window 3 days away and was warned that violating the rules might result in contempt charges and jail time. Maxwell investigated Ethan's drug past. He questioned Ethan's friends and acquaintances about his drug use. He found a 30-year-old drug dealer who sold to college students and teens in our area on his second day of investigation. Maxwell urged him to talk by saying this was about a father clearing his name, not prosecuting dealers. The dealer said Ethan bought pills, mushrooms, and other drugs for a year. Because Ethan paid cash and discussed his weekly allowance, he remembered him. People knew he lived with his parents, but he considered himself a trust fund baby. Most importantly, the dealer confirmed that Ethan bought several mushrooms 2 days before our Bahamas vacation. Ethan asked enough for the week to party on vacation. Ethan laughed at the dealer's warning about overbuying, stating he knew better. So Nicole's assertion that Ethan bought the drugs in the Bahamas and experimented was false. Maxwell found Ethan collected and used narcotics for a year or more. An experienced dealer carried drugs on family vacations. He didn't eat mushrooms at a foreign hotel. Nicole had ignored or been blind to them as a habit. Her claim that he experimented fell apart. Maxwell's report included timestamps, witness testimony, and the dealer's remaining Ethan purchased text messages. Benjamin said the study would indicate Nicole lied about the drug's source and Ethan's drug history, which would help the prosecution case. On my supervised house visit day, I felt bad traveling with the court monitor in another car. Barbara, a 50-year-old monitor, explained the rules before we entered. I could gather clothes, toiletries, documents, and electronics. I could download security footage. I couldn't take Nicole or Ethan's items. May not damage or remove divorce-divided property. Barbara documented everything I took. Nicole and Ethan missed my visit. I saw them deleting me from the residence as we neared the front door. Through the glass, Nicole and Ethan's event and travel photos replaced the hallway wall's family photographs. Despite Nicole changing it constantly, my key worked in the lock. I couldn't describe how dreadful it was to show people my 15-year-old home. Everyone looked identical but different. The typical furniture were there, but with little changes that showed someone had been carefully removing me. A trendy living room table replaced my cherished chair. Coffee cups were gone from my kitchen shelf. Nicole put my clothes from the closet in trash bags in our bedroom corner because she couldn't have them next to hers. Barbara watched me sort through the bags and toss the remainder. After getting my laptop from the home office, I found my birth certificate, passport, and childhood picture albums in the file cabinet. Barbara kept snapping photos and writing notes on her clipboard, treating me like a criminal requiring constant monitoring. My stomach dropped after accessing the workplace PC security camera system. The sleepwalking confession footage from Tuesday was all Nicole retained. Lost 3 months of video. The system showed the deletion 2 days after the judge authorized me house access. She erased the archive because she knew I was coming, leaving just one piece of evidence that made me seem scary. When I called Barbara, she took a photo of the deletion records and last video file. To have an official copy during the monitored visit, I downloaded the one clip on a thumb drive from my phone. Barbara added all other tape was purposely erased, which the court may value. After putting my belongings into Jason's spare room and experiencing the peculiar feeling of being a stranger in my own house, Angie called later that evening. Barbara's papers and mass-deleting camera photos were reviewed. She claimed I had good proof. Why would Nicole destroy all but one clip if she thought the surveillance tape revealed I was aggressive and tried to murder them 6 years ago? A really terrified person would keep all recordings to show investigators and courts the whole frightening sequence. Nicole had done the opposite, carefully picking the information to showcase only the most damaging moment and removing all background or other stories. Angie would testify if needed since she felt selective preservation demonstrated someone managing a tail rather than being afraid. Elimination proved manipulation. Angie got the thumb drive footage and Barbara's deletion log images, proving Nicole was building a case against me. She called 2 hours later with shocking news. She cut the movie from a longer clip, deleting pre- and post-sleepwalking footage. The metadata showed when footage was erased and the file was deleted, leaving this 30-second clip. Someone had taken a longer recording and edited off the part that made me look dangerous, eliminating everything that may explain what I was responding to or what happened before and after. Angie described file creation dates that didn't match recording dates, compression artifacts indicating multiple saves, and video sequence timing gaps. This person wasn't hiding horror. He purposefully developed a weapon against me. 2 days later, Benjamin presented Angie's technical analysis, Maxwell's evidence of Ethan's year-long drug use, pharmacy records of my legitimate prescription and responsible refill history, and witness interview transcripts proving Ethan stole and used my medication for months to my drug case prosecutor. Benjamin meticulously demonstrated how the tablets in my suitcase matched my prescription. Nicole admitted to placing them during our phone chat, even though I hadn't documented it, and the edited surveillance film indicated proof fabrication rather than genuine concern. The prosecutor spent about an hour on timeline and source verification. She went from confident prosecution to reluctant doubt after reviewing the records. She said the case was tainted by witness manipulation and manufactured evidence. The prosecutor waited 3 weeks to evaluate the material and decide how to proceed. I talked with Megan about the divorce in Jason's spare room and tried not to check my phone every 5 minutes. Waiting hurt more than arrest. This limbo where my future rested on decisions made in offices I couldn't visit by people I couldn't talk to. Benjamin finally called Tuesday morning with news. A pre-trial diversion deal was offered by the prosecutor to lower felony possession to simple possession. Drug treatment and 6 months of probation without violations would erase the charges from my record. Benjamin felt it was a decent finish, given how bad things had seemed. Benjamin outlined the ramifications of complete discharge in his office that afternoon. He said reasonable doubt was shown. However, juries were unpredictable, and prosecutors despised losing cases. If we lost at trial, I'd go to jail and have a permanent criminal record that would damage my career. It appeared unfair to admit mere possession for the pre-trial diversion. I could earn a clean record by meeting all the requirements. I hated every word of the papers but signed it to avoid losing everything. Nicole was outraged at having to acknowledge culpability after the criminal case because she planned it. Once the charges were dismissed, Megan concentrated on the divorce. As retaliation for ruined property, she sued Nicole for $35,000 in credit card charges. Even though marital asset regulations allowed it, she requested half of Nicole's joint account funds to her personal account, saying that emptying shared accounts without notice violated basic fairness. Megan thoroughly described Nicole's actions after the luggage incident to show they punished, rather than protected. She used Maxwell's studies on Ethan's long-term drug problem, which Nicole knew about and suppressed, to disprove Nicole's fear-based allegations. 2 weeks later, Nicole's attorney responded with horror. They used the sleepwalking video to insinuate I was unstable, had violently trashed Ethan's belongings, been arrested for drug usage, and may have tried to kill Nicole and Ethan 6 years earlier by destroying their car. Nicole was described as a worried wife who had found the strength to protect her property and safety, leave a violent husband. They said restoring Ethan's ruined stuff was fair compensation for items I forced into a lake and that relocating joint account cash protected someone from becoming unstable and dangerous. I felt sick seeing my life turn into a horror story with me as the villain. Megan presented Maxwell's entire investigative file revealing Ethan's drug purchases from several dealers over the last year, witness testimonies confirming his party drug usage, and proof that Nicole knew about the situation for months, but allowed it rather than seeking assistance. She stated Nicole's revenge was planned by someone who had dominated family connections for years and ignored challenges. Angie's technical analysis of the manipulated video, the mechanic's original car accident report showing natural brake failure rather than sabotage, and Nicole's systematic destruction of my employment, housing, and financial stability within hours of a single angry outburst were included in the filing. Megan portrayed someone who had punished a husband who had finally ceased tolerating his son's damaging behavior with law and facts. Rita asked me about my drug history in a little room with beige walls and motivational posters when I started court-ordered drug treatment the next week. I said I never took early refills or dose increases of prescription oxycodone for severe back pain and had no history of recreational drug use or addiction. Rita evaluated all my pharmacy and medicine information. After 3 sessions, she said I didn't have a drug problem but needed to finish all 12 and pass random drug testing for pretrial diversion. For sobriety, I attended weekly meetings, talked about addiction triggers and treatment methods that didn't apply to me, and peed in cups. Since I'd never done drugs, it seemed absurd. Since my perfect record hinged on complete this pointless charade, I did everything perfectly. 3 days later, Maxwell contacted the technician. Frank Dacqua was retired but resided in the town where the tragedy occurred 6 years ago. He remembered our case because the insurance company wanted a sabotage finding to deny the claim, but his inspection showed otherwise. Frank reviewed his initial papers with Maxwell. Angie and Maxwell traveled there to get the original inspection report for us. Frank retrieved a heavy file from his garage storage, pages yellowed but notes readable. He logged everything. Corroded brake line measurements, failure area photos, and comparable aged car samples. Rust indicated years of corrosion, not new damage. Frank said the model's brake lines corrode rapidly in humid areas, and ours failed after 9 years on the road. Timing was key. Frank told Maxwell that Nicole cutting or intentionally damaging the brake lines that morning would have caused the failure within minutes. Our brake fluid would have poured, pressure dropped, and pedal lowered before departing. Nicole and Ethan drove 6 hours until the mountain descent brakes failed. That delay proved the failure was caused by natural deterioration throughout their travel, not my morning tinkering. Frank's notes gave the timeline. Our guests left about 9 a.m. A tragedy struck approximately 3 p.m. They stopped for petrol and food twice and drove without brake issues. The progressive deterioration resembled age-related corrosion, which Frank had seen dozens of times. If needed, his testimony is accessible. Megan got Maxwell's report and Frank's documentation 2 weeks before divorce court. It took her days to put together a story that contradicted Nicole's counsel. Although the sleepwalking video showed me discussing sabotage, the actual proof did not. If I had spoken such things while unconscious, which I had no memory of or control over, the mechanical reality precluded me from admitting. Courtroom smelled like old wood and anxiety throughout divorce hearing. Nicole and her attorney sat across from Megan at a large table. The 60-year-old family law judge Morrow has 30 years of expertise. Megan's study found she prioritized facts above emotional manipulation. Nicole's counsel described my instability and risk. He aired the sleepwalking video to underline my accident and survivor statements. My drug arrest, Bahamas property damage, and employment termination were mentioned. He painted me as a violent, unstable man whose mask had fallen. Nicole was afraid and cried into a tissue. Megan then took down their story in her organized files. Maxwell discovered Ethan's year-long drug use. She produced witness evidence from months before the Bahamas trip showing Ethan using narcotics at parties. She displayed my pharmacy records indicating no early refills or prescription misuse. She presented Angie's examination of the fabricated surveillance tape, showing editing and erasing. And she showed Frank's mechanical inspection report. Megan painstakingly presented her case to the judge. 6 hours later, she explained the corrosion pattern, drive timing, and sabotage-free breakdown. Frank's photos, measurements, expert comments, and testimonies were shown. She said that even if the sleepwalking video showed me saying such things during a sleep issue I couldn't control, the physical evidence indicated I didn't cause the accident that morning. Judge Morrow asked further brake line analysis inquiries, clearly interested in mechanics. Nicole's attorney was asked whether he had expert testimony, contradicting Frank. He didn't. She asked whether they had proof I tampered with the car before the trip. They didn't. She asked why Nicole deleted all security footage save my sleep-talking video. His speech sounded suspicious as he claimed accidentality. Megan described Nicole's reaction. My airport bag had drugs, immediately emptying joint accounts. My $35,000 credit card debt. Call to my employer about drugs. Without warning, divorce papers were filed. She explained she planned this punishment for challenging her dominance over Ethan, not fear. After Megan presented the evidence, the court doubted. Nicole remained in her sights. Back to paperwork. Megan completed. Judge Morrow called a recess to evaluate everything. I stood in the corridor with Megan during break as Nicole and her attorney discussed in a corner. After 20 minutes, Nicole's lawyer changed. He offered settlement instead of prolonging the hearing. After Megan glanced, I nodded. He took us to a little conference room down the hall. Talks for resolution lasted 2 days. Nicole wanted to keep her inherited house. She wanted family assets secure. She wanted minimal spousal support after the divorce due to my volatility. After the judge observed the contradictions, her attorney's horror tale collapsed. I wanted $45,000, half the joint account, and phony credit card charges repaid. I wanted my name cleared in the car accident with a documented mechanical failure declaration. Maintenance of retirement funds was my goal after 18 years of employment. Megan argued all these points using the judge's suspicion. Nicole's attorney negotiated $30,000, then $35,000. Megan maintained $45,000, claiming their case was crumbling and the judge would give me more if we went back to court. Nicole's attorney said the accident statement was unnecessary. Megan stated it was vital to clear my identity and avoid accusations. We settled on mediation day 2. Nicole maintained her fortune and home. She offered $45,000 for half the joint account and credit card fees. She would swear that brake line rust caused the 6-year-old accident, not sabotage. I would keep my retirement account and avoid marital debt, but no spousal support. It wasn't fair given my 18 years of marriage, but it was better than leaving with nothing while she ruled. Nicole divorced 6 weeks after filing. Following the diversion program, I was cleared of drug charges and received formal proof that the accident claims were bogus. I lost my house, career, most of my money, and 18 years of marriage. Despite feeling like starting over at my age, the settlement gave me enough money to rebuild. I got a familiar call 2 days after my divorce. After 5 years, Elias Tran departed my department for a smaller software company across town. He sent me a compassionate email after my termination. We'd had lunch previously. He talked kindly when I replied. Elias's business was hiring for a position I qualified for. It was less corporate and smaller than my previous job, yet solid work with advancement potential. He informed the recruitment manager of my leaving and appreciated my character and talents. The manager would ask whether I wanted to start over. After my request, Elias booked an interview for the following week. The recruiting manager, Sarah Brennan, oversaw engineering for a mid-sized digital healthcare data management company. My one suitable suit, worn to court for 2 months, arrived 15 minutes early. Sarah grabbed my hand and led me to a small conference room with parking lot windows instead of my old office's downtown cityscape. She asked about my experience, technical skills, management style, and other normal questions. She reread her notes. She asked why I quit after 18 years, even though Elias had outlined my situation. Inhaling, I confessed. To revenge a family disagreement, my wife concealed prescription drugs in my airport bags. My arrest. My employer's zero-tolerance policy dismissed me without explanation. I spent 2 months fighting diversion, dropped criminal charges. Listened silently, expressionless. After I completed, she demanded dismissal and case resolution paperwork. I grabbed Megan's folder, court paperwork showing the charges were dismissed, Benjamin's letter explaining the circumstances, and the diversion program's declaration confirming I satisfied all terms. Sarah reviewed each paper and said she'd verify my references and account with former co-workers. She put 3 longtime co-workers on speaker so I could hear. Each stated I was a good worker, a good boss, and that everyone knew my wife set me up during a divorce. Gregory from the infrastructure team said my departure was corporate politics to protect their ass, not my character or abilities. Sarah hung up after thanking them. She looked at me across the table and said she respected my honesty, that most people in my position would have tried to hide or minimize what happened. She said senior engineer, not manager, compensation was $72,000, down from $120,000, and benefits were limited but reasonable. She promised to discuss it with her team and react in 3 days. Sarah called 2 days later to offer me the job. I agreed immediately. Sarah. Relief compelled me to sit. Wage cuts hurt. The decline in responsibility seemed like failure, yet it was work when I thought my career was ended. I started orientation the following Monday and obtained new equipment and system access. While working in a smaller office with outdated equipment and fewer ambitious objectives, everyone treated me normally. No drug or criminal history, just new hire adjustment. Elias followed me to lunch the first Friday to check on me. I thanked him for reaching out and saving me. He refused, arguing everyone deserved second opportunities, especially when someone else's malice stole the first. 3 weeks into my new job, a number I hadn't seen in months called. Ethan. 5 screen time rings later, I responded. His uncertain voice requested a meeting to discuss. I asked why he thought I'd want to see him after everything. He said he was in treatment to fix problems. He understood my rejection but tried. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop near Jason's flat, neutral territory where I could leave, against my better judgment. I told Ethan to come alone but brought Jason as backup. He agreed without argument. A meeting was arranged for Saturday afternoon, 2 days away. Jason insisted on coming that night from my announcement. Was afraid to confront Ethan alone after what he did. On Saturday, Jason and I went to the coffee shop with my stomach tight with unspoken fears. We arrived early and got a rear table with a fantastic view of the entryway. Ethan came 20 minutes later and I barely recognized him. His trendy clothes were baggy on his emaciated body after shedding 30 pounds. His skin was gray. His hand shook and his eyes had thick rings that cosmetics couldn't disguise when ordering coffee. Jason silently supported me across from him. Ethan said before I could answer. He had daily addiction counseling for 5 weeks in outpatient treatment. After he became sick and was taken to the ER 3 weeks after we returned from the Bahamas, Nicole acknowledged he was addicted to drugs. His apology was delayed and cautious for putting the medicines in my suitcase. Nicole claimed it was vengeance since I ruined his property, therefore he should bring me problems. I listened without responding while he fidgeted with his coffee cup to postpone my flight and educate me. Then I asked the question that concerned me for months. Did he assume I sabotaged the car to kill him and Nicole 6 years ago? Ethan sat calmly staring at his hands for minutes. He said he didn't remember much about the accident since he was traumatized at 17. He recalls the car rolling, the glass breaking, and waking up in the hospital with a concussion and broken arm. But Nicole's claim that I messed with the brakes. She told him why I was dangerous, why she had to protect them, why she controlled the money, and why she made all the decisions throughout the years. After hearing it so frequently, he assumed it was his memory, not hers. After weeks of treatment without her, he recognized she dominated us. Ethan realized that Nicole had spent years turning us against each other, encouraging his worst instincts and making me his adversary, so he'd always side with her since she gave him everything he needed. The rehab therapist helped him see how infinite money and no boundaries had hurt him, prevented him from becoming an adult, and made him dependent on her. He wanted neither forgiveness nor reconciliation. Despite Nicole's warning, he wanted to own his involvement in ruining my life and apologize. I saw my small, trembling child and felt something inexplicable. I prayed he received assistance instead of forgiveness or reconciliation, and realized he'd been damaged by the same person who tried to ruin me. We may discuss our family when we're both healed. However, I needed time to rebuild my life and find myself without constant coercion. Ethan nodded assent. He stood up slowly like his legs weren't solid and left the cafe puzzled and little after finishing his coffee. Jason and I sat silently after he went. Finally, Jason asked whether I was okay. Now I knew Nicole controlled Ethan. I lived in a little one-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, 6 months after that awful Bahamas birthday vacation. Nothing spectacular, just clean. I completed the drug diversion program and received formal notice that the charges were withdrawn, erasing my record. Nicole's payout paid first and last month's rent, inexpensive store furniture, and enough for my lower wage. Sarah rated me well in the IT firm, and each job helped me build my professional credibility. My retirement account remained. After paying off my credit cards, I had $3,500 in savings, more than months. I lost my house, career, most of my money, and a marriage centered on power and hostility after 18 years. Some scars never healed. Any idea pained my scars. For the first time in decades, I was making my own decisions and supporting myself. There was substance. I wasn't rich, successful, or living my dream. I was free from those who tried to destroy me and building something new from their rubble. Must matter.